So it looks as though we might be heading for a conflict with Iran. Now, recently, the Trump administration announced that it will be deploying an additional 1,000 troops to the Middle East. And that's got, of course, a lot of people worried, myself included. It's even got the attention of the UN. Now, the UN says that right now, officials are assessing the United States' plan to carry out what they call a tactical assault on Iran. This is according to reporting by the Jerusalem Post. And they cited anonymous diplomatic sources at the UN. Now, according to the officials, since Friday, the White House has been holding incessant discussions involving senior military commanders, Pentagon representatives, and advisors to President Trump. What are they discussing? Military options. Now, that military action under consideration, they say, would be an aerial bombardment of an Iranian facility. Now, get this, right? So they want to bomb this facility. Why? Well, apparently it's in connection to the Iranian nuclear program. Now, they say that Iran is in violation of the Iran deal. Well, now, wait a minute. And they want to use this plus the so-called attack on the tankers, which we don't actually know if Iran did it. Even not the captain of the freighter, but the owner of those tankers says, we don't know who it was. We're pretty sure that it's not the Iranians. It didn't come from a mine. It actually came from the sky. We don't know what it was. We don't know that the Iranians, that if it was the Iranians. Which, of course, contradicts the videos that the Pentagon supposedly has of the Iranians removing a limpet mine, which is a magnetic mine, from the side of the tanker, right? So now they're using that and the so-called violation of the Iranian nuclear deal, which we're not even a part of, as justification for a so-called large-scale attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. Really? Okay. Now, one Western diplomat told the Post that the bombing campaign would be, quote, massive, but limited to a specific target. Because that's how that works, apparently. Now, that would assume, of course, that Iran doesn't immediately respond to being bombed. Again, imagine if Iran attacked our nuclear facility in, Texas or something, right? What would happen? We would immediately invade Iran. There would be no questions about it. There would be an invasion 20 minutes afterwards, just about. I mean, here we go, right? I am legitimately afraid now that Trump and his neocon advisors are going to get us, they're going to blunder us into another disastrous war in the Middle East. And it's not just going to be Iraq stupid. It's going to be 4 times as dumb as Iraq. And 4 times as devastating. And the irony, of course, is here's Donald Trump, right? The guy who said, I'm not going to here to start wars. The war in Iraq was ridiculous. The war in, all these wars. No. I'm going to focus on America first. America first, right? Remember that, MAGA guys? He said America first and not getting into wars. Now he's looking to start a pointless war in the Middle East. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's because his presidential campaign is failing. His poll numbers are disastrous. And maybe he's got these neocons in his ear saying, hey, Donald, what you need to do, if you want to be popular, go start a war. Go start a war with Iran or Venezuela. I mean, it just so happens those two countries sit on a massive amount of oil. Now, is Donald Trump really aware of that? I think he is actually aware of that. But is that the main objective for Donald Trump? Probably not, but it's the main objective of defense contractors and oil companies and the people who pay, John Bolton and Mike Pompeo. Here we go. It's about oil. Now, I want to give you some more information here. Ryan Costello, policy director at the National Iranian American Council, noted that the Post's reporting, quote, tracks with what Pentagon officials said is the most likely option last month. And that would, of course, be that large aerial bombardment, or basically an incitement towards a war. Citing an anonymous Pentagon source, Newsweek reported last month that if anything is likely to happen involving the Trump administration's preliminary Iran options, it would involve a heavy guided missile strike campaign in an attempt to lead Tehran to the negotiation table with Washington. Now, you know what that would lead to? That would lead to an instant reprisal. Now, here's the thing. Oh, you say you want negotiation. That's why you got to take a strong stance, right? In order to get Iran to the negotiating table. Iran already went to the negotiating table. And you know what? We ended up getting a deal, and it was a pretty good deal. You know what it was called? It's called the Iran nuclear deal. You know what Donald Trump did? He ripped it up. I mean, look, we got them to eliminate all of their refined nuclear fuel, right? The only material that they had, and you have to enrich uranium to a pretty pure high standard in order to have it usable in nuclear weapons. They got rid of all of that material and only kept the low-grade nuclear material, which, of course, was used for their energy program. They did that in exchange for lifting sanctions that were crippling their economy. That was a fair trade, right? Now, Trump, as I said before, ripped up that deal, and of course, following that, several months, look, we not only ripped up the nuclear deal, we reimposed the sanctions. So now Iran's sitting here saying, well, wait a minute. We've been, following the deal without a problem. Mostly because, the European countries were still interested in making sure that Iran, that they were part of the deal. America steps in and says, no, you're not going to do that. Any country caught doing business with Iran is also going to be punished by the United States. So now here we are getting involved, and it gets worse. It gets worse, right? Now, let me get to the news here that came out just recently, where Iran's Atomic Energy Organization said, well, that within 10 days the country will have produced and kept in its stockpiles more low-rich uranium, the sort used to fuel power plants, than allowed by the 2015 containment deal. That's what Iran's saying. Hey, look, we've got a lot of this, enriched material. Now, the thing is they were limited in how much they can actually stockpile. Now, Iran also says, look, we might actually start enriching a little bit higher. I mean, if you were Iran, what would you do? The United States already violated the deal by pulling out of it and put more sanctions on Iran. Why would Iran honor a deal that even we wouldn't? And get this, right? And this is the kicker. Until now, Iran shipped most of the low enriched uranium it produces out of the country. They swapped it for natural uranium. That allows it to continue producing small amounts of nuclear fuel for civilian power plants without building up a stockpile for potential use in nuclear weapons. Now, back in May, the State Department announced that it will now penalize countries that would transfer enriched uranium out of Iran. So now, understand this, right? So Iran would ship this out of the country, the enriched uranium that it would create for its energy program. They would ship it out, right? Get it out of the country so that we do not violate the terms of this deal. But now, since the United States says, oh, no, hold on, you can't stockpile that, but other countries, you can't take that stockpile out of their hands. Well, then what are you supposed to do? Any other country gets penalized, and they can't have too much refined uranium. Because if we do, we say you're in violation, and then we're going to use it to, that justification to bomb you. Does anyone else see that this is a goddamn setup? They want to take us to war, and they're doing everything they can to try to take us in that direction. They have put Iran in a lose-lose situation. Now, look, I've got no love for the fundamentalist government of Iran. No love for the mullahs, right? Not at all. But if you cannot see what we are doing here, what the end goal is, let me spell it out, okay? Neocons like Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, they want a war with Iran so badly so that we can, for one, their beliefs are absolutely abhorrent, right, when it comes to Iran, because a lot of it has to do with kicking off the end times, the apocalypse. I'm not kidding. I've done previous videos explaining what John Bolton and Mike Pompeo actually believe, and it's insane. It's crazy. They believe in the end times. The other thing is that they want to take Iran's oil. It's always about oil. It's always about money. So now who wins by this? Well, defense contractors win. Oil companies win. Fundamentalists win. On both sides, by the way. The Christian religious fundamentalists that want to, the kickoff of their own apocalypse, they win. The Muslim fundamentalists over there, the mullahs, they win because they get to say, hey, look, America is exactly the kind of evil that we've been telling you about. You can't deal with America. You can't make any deals because they'll just turn around and then they'll start attacking us. And then, of course, the losers, us, will lose because, again, we're going to get thrown into a disastrous war with Iran. The Iranian people will also lose because we're basically going to destroy their entire country and steal their natural resources. Lots and lots of people are going to die if there is a war. But the military-industrial complex, man, here comes another multi-trillion-dollar debacle. Thanks to these idiots. Thanks to these warmongers. These terrible people. I hope it doesn't happen. But everybody, you see what's going on here. I'm so incredibly concerned. I'm so worried. I don't know what we're going to do to be able to stop it. And that's what scares me the most. I mean, we're heading down the road to disaster. And we scream at the top of our lungs. And for some reason, it just doesn't seem to do anything. It doesn't seem to stop these warmongers, these horrible people from doing what they're going to do. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.